Welcome, 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 everybody. Happy Monday. I am so excited to be here. This is Jonathan Budd, and I am today's host for the Renewable Rebellion Roundtable. And we've got an amazing event in store for everybody. In just a moment, I'm going to allow our very special guest to introduce himself, but I just want to quickly sort of set the intention for what we're doing here today. You know, there's been a lot of change in the California solar industry over the last 2 quarters, and there is still not a clear understanding of how amazing our product is for the world and the solution that we bring to consumers every single day versus the only option that they've historically had, which is, you know, being paying utility. So the intention of this roundtable is to really bring together some of the smartest and brightest experts in our industry to share the understanding of where solar is going under NEM 3, under the future of California energy policy, and share that understanding with everybody and share the value proposition of solar with everybody and how amazing this product is today in California and even where it's going in the future. So that's why we're all here today. I'm so excited to have you all with me in person, and I know we've got Julia and Raghu virtually tuning in. What's up, guys? Can you hear us? I think so.
Hello. Yes, glad to be here too. We hear you loud and clear.
All right, there you are. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and allow our guests to introduce themselves. We've got Bernadette Del Quiero. Did I get it right? Did I do decent? Close enough? I at least passed the test, right? Not the total failure test.
You got the hard CH.
I'm going to let Bernadette introduce herself in a minute. We've got Mark Abrams filling in for Ryan Harris, who unfortunately came down with COVID just yesterday. We've got Jonathan Brunasso. We've got Raghu, Belur, and Julia Pyper all with us. So, guys, if you could take just 1 minute and share a little bit about yourself, your role, and why you're here today with everybody, that'd be fantastic.
I'm so glad to be here, Jonathan. First of all, thank you to you and the whole Powur team. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Bernadette Del Quiero, and I'm the Executive Director of the California Solar and Storage Association, CALSA. We are the state's oldest and largest clean energy trade group with over 750 business members here in the state of California, and we're focused exclusively and powerfully on the growth of distributed solar and storage. So that's our main mission and our focus, and I've been at this for 10 years now.
Wonderful.
My name is Mark Abrams. I'm the VP of Sales here at SPAN. We make a smart electric panel that so many of you have seen us launch here in the last month. It is a pleasure to be on the stage, particularly with Bernadette in particular, who is a legend, and really we all can thank her for much of our opportunity here today. I'm here to talk about, of course, all the things you can do here in the NEM 3 world in California. I've been in solar 11 and a half years, and I do have to also nod to my friend Raghu, who brought me into the solar industry back in 2012, and eternally grateful for that opportunity back then, and very happy to be here with you all today.
Hey, Powur family, and also hello to anyone in the solar industry. I've been in residential solar since about 2015 at a lot of large companies, and I've been with Powur for over 4 years now and have a very large team. So working with a lot of leaders and sellers in the market, different partners that we have, and figuring out the best solution in the trenches. I've been leading a Net Metering 3.0 steering committee with Mike Winters and a few other industry experts. So really just representing you, the seller, your voice here today, and thank you for putting on this important event, and thank you to the partners that have joined us.
Julia, you want to go next?
Great, I'll jump in. Thanks so much for having me. Julia Pyper, I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs at GoodLeap. We are a financier in the residential solar plus space. You know, we've also financed storage and other home improvement upgrades like HVACs, windows, doors, roofing, you name it, we're in the space. We want to be a partner to everyone on the call. So, you know, reach out to us. I'm here to wonk out on the policy elements. I oversee our government affairs work and communications on policy. So thanks so much to the Powur team for having me.
Guys, my name is Raghu Belur. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Enphase. I've been here before, did this panel last year. It was a lot of fun. So looking forward to doing the same this year. Good to see you, Mark. You know, our industry is just a testament that, you know, once you come into our industry, you're not going to leave. This industry is too exciting,
it's
too
Hotel
important.
California.
Yeah, it's Hotel California, yeah. You're not going to leave. It's just too important a task, and it's not a task anymore. It's not a job anymore. It really is a responsibility. So I think we are here for a bigger purpose, and I think that's what makes this industry particularly exciting. So I've done a lot of work on NEM 3, worked with Kelsa particularly, and Julia and other stakeholders as well. And I think NEM 3 is a unique and really interesting opportunity for our industry. I think if you look at it from a first principles basis on things that are taking place in our world, NEM 3 it really is the step in the right direction. Yes, we had a rough start. Yes, we can discuss whether it was the right number, the right timings, and so on and so forth. But if you think about it over the long term, this is really a very, very good and important step for our industry. I'll talk more about it as we get into it.
Well, wonderful. Again, I just want to share my appreciation to all of you for taking the time to be here today. I think we're all here today because of our passion and desire and the feeling of responsibility that we have for our industry and for helping to craft the direction for where we go from here. So that being said, Bernadette, I'd love if you could kick us off and just give us all a quick primer. What happened,
Right.
from NEM 2 to NEM 3? What happened? What's different for everybody who's tuning in now and really needing to catch up and understand this new context?
Right. Well, just to zoom way out for a second, Jonathan, we passed in the state of California, the legislature passed net metering, invented this concept of net metering back in 1995. It then was capped at that time at 0.5% of the utilities peak load. Very small pilot program, but it was popular enough. And after the electricity crisis in 2000, 2001, the legislature finally realized we truly need to diversify our energy resources. So for the next 18 years, the legislature bumped up the cap on net metering consistently every couple of years, allowing our market to expand, right, with the help of incentives. And it wasn't until 2013 that the utilities really started to get scared. And they put a lot of pressure on the legislature, and they passed a bill in 2013 that essentially lifted the cap on net metering. So there was no more cap on the program, but they directed the PUC and sort of handed the reins over to the state agency called the California Public Utilities Commission to make changes and modify the program. Those modifications took place in 2016 with the NEM 2.0, reduction in sort of the incentives of NEM. And then this last decision, NEM 3, was sort of the final straw. Those changes were sort of a long time coming. And the other thing that's important for people to know is that the Public Utilities Commission is run by a board of 5 people, and they're all appointed by the governor and then confirmed by the legislature. So all of these changes are inherently very political, and they kind of come from Sacramento. And they come at a time, and this gets to Raghu's, I think, opening comment. California is wanting genuinely to solve and be a leader in fighting climate change. But instead of making necessary and I think welcomed changes to allow us to make a greater value for energy storage, which is what we absolutely need to do to meet our climate change goals, they made very abrupt changes that are going to be really damaging. So we're going to have to get through this difficult time period while at the same time being as optimistic and visionary as Raghu and Enphase and others like him in our industry and bullish about what we ultimately offer consumers, which is a way better product than what the utilities can ever offer. Mm-hmm. So we have reason to be optimistic, but we've got a rough road to go through. And that was an unnecessarily rough road, reckless on the PUC's part. But yet, because we stopped that tax, we have a leg to stand on and we have still a product to sell. So all of our hard work paid off in that we stopped the solar tax, but we still have a tough time ahead. And we're going to have to work together, educate ourselves what this today is helping to do, and get us through to that vision.
Did I hear correctly? California pioneered net metering?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yep.
All right, another nod to the innovative spirit of this market, and makes me wonder, what are we going to pioneer next? Where are we going to lead to next? So, excellent. Thank you for that. Anything else to add? Anybody want to add anything before we kind of move on around context from NEM 2 to NEM 3?
Yeah, if I may, I can share some thoughts. This is a period of great change, right? In terms of, if you look at what's happening with climate, let's start with climate, right? Every day there's a case to be made about extreme weather. Couple that with adoption of EVs, adoption of heat pumps, adoption of solar, etc. In this period of great change, the fundamental structure of the utility, both in terms of the engineering of it, which is a very centralized model, as well as the policies and regulations that drive the utility in the current form, has to change. It cannot be the same, right? It's not changed in 125 years, and to expect that in this period of great change, a utility which is the core infrastructure to deliver energy cannot change is just crazy, right? So what we have to do is really, I personally strongly believe that the utility infrastructure has to be rebuilt. And the way, if you think about it from a first principles point of view, is going to be rebuilt from the inside out, from the home out, not from centralized generation and control driving to a home that was just a consumer. Today, all homes are becoming prosumers, right? We produce our own energy and we do consume from the grid as well, but grid is just another resource. So this massive reconstruction of the grid has to take place in order to meet the changes that are coming, and they're coming fast and furious. That's all I'd like to add.
If I could jump in super quickly just to comment on that, people sometimes I think don't realize how big the distributed solar sector is. We were like roughly a third of all capacity nationally last year. In California, closer to 40, almost 50% of new capacity, I think, with the big push. And that's huge. We're a big industry. And I think sometimes policymakers in particular forget that. They think it's more of a fringe offering, but we are a massive clean energy player in the state of California and nationally. And now's the time for us to step up and be active through organizations like CALSA and other places to show that, no, we're here, we're part of the economy of these states, massive jobs, not only potential, but current jobs in the market. So just like a feather in our cap of huge success. And now's the time to continue representing what our industry needs going forward, because we're a major player in the economy and meeting big climate goals. To Raghu's point on the climate issues we're facing, we're a key part of the solution, and we got to show that every day.
Go ahead. I think I'll add just a thought on this, which is we've been here before as an industry. So for those of us who've been working nationally in this, so California, this may feel like a big disruptive change, and of course it is. But if you visit Hawaii, you've seen that they've been working with batteries for many, many years. Puerto Rico, many, many years. Frankly, Europe's been doing time of use shifting with battery for many years. So on one hand, it's a big change for California. On the other hand, there have been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of technologies evolved, and a lot of ways that we can both adopt to what we need to do here to enable the transition as we're talking about, and to enable us all to be successful in bringing solar to our homeowners.
I love it. I think that's a great segue into the next section, because we know change is inevitable and there's nothing static. Value is always changing. So what has it changed into now? What is the new value proposition? Why is solar still attractive in California? How do batteries fit into this mix? We're really getting to the crux of this new energy future that I think we've all imagined. And to your point, Mark, there are some clues and examples in other markets. But to me, it feels like in California, we've really got the opportunity right now to do it at maybe a bigger scale, a larger scale than it's done before, and really, in a way, kind of set the stage for what the new grid could look like. So let's talk about that. What is the value proposition under NEM 3? Who wants to dive in on that one?
Well, I think Julia has some great slides. I don't know if Julia, if you want to go, but I think to wrap it in a bow, the value proposition, there'll be exceptions where standalone solar makes sense. It's going to be consumer by consumer. I think the big takeaway is we're going to have to upgrade our, a lot of our sophistication as we sell NEM 3, but it's all about the battery and adding that battery. And I think Julia has some great slides to illustrate that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll jump in for a moment, and maybe this will be a good, foundation just so everyone's on the same page of what is the new net billing tariff known as NEM 3.0, right? So if you give me a few minutes to wonk out here, I think that'll set the scene really nicely for all the other speakers to chime in on exactly what the value offerings are. So these are a few slides I put together for another presentation. We'll try and click through them quickly. Our lawyers make me show a disclaimer that I am not allowed to give you all, legal advice here, but this is informed by, active role in the policymaking process. Just a quick reminder that this decision affects California's 3 largest investor-owned utilities. So there are municipal utilities and other utilities in the state that are not affected by NEM 3.0. They have their own policies, but just a good reminder there. Also, the fact that CALSA fought really hard and all of the membership to avoid some really onerous fees that were part of the initial proposal. Was not part of the end decision. Also, we protected, the customers from retroactive changes and it secured 20 years of grandfathering. So just want to point out that anyone who sent someone to a rally or what have you, those were wins that we got, even though, yes, we're still swallowing the impact of what this net billing tariff means for us going forward. The upshot. Yes, the credit that customers receive for that exported solar power is going to decline, has declined now that we're living in the NEM 3.0 world by 75 to 80%. So those solar exports just aren't worth what they used to be. Customers can't really use the grid as a battery, if you will. So this is the new net billing tariff. This is where utilities compensate customers on what's known as the avoided cost rate. That's the world we're living in now. And so this is where the term self-consumption, I think, becomes really, really key. It's all about, when we talk about adding value, how can you have the solar match a customer's self-consumption? So you could, this kicks off a whole bunch of conversations around what is a customer's future goals? Are they buying an EV? How much energy are they currently using? Are they going to add a heat pump in future? Maybe a battery can help them store that excess electricity they produce from a larger solar system in the middle of the day and shift it to the evening. And we'll talk more about why that's even more valuable than ever right now. But really understanding a customer's current and future power consumption under NEM 3 is key, because this red area here you see on the slide, the exports, those are not worth retail rates anymore. That is gone under the NEM 3.0 world. What the customer is receiving instead is what's called the avoided cost calculator rate, the avoided cost rate. And this maybe makes your eyes go, wonky looking at this. This one right here, the chart on the right. A lot of numbers, and these numbers change over time. CALSA and Powur, I know, have additional resources and slide decks, and reach out to GoodLeap as well if you have questions on what this is. But this is basically the matrix of what a customer is going to be compensated and is compensated under the current net billing regime we're living in California. So as you can see, there's moments in the middle of the day, those red areas, where it just your customer's not making much money, if anything, to export that solar power. Now, we debated what that true correct cost should be. I think we think this is lower than the value truly is, but nonetheless, this is where we landed today, again, at the avoided cost calculator rate. So no longer are exports tied to time of use rates as they were under NEM 2. So a lot of different values here. This is where your technology partners and software partners are really going to help you figure out, as you calculate for a customer what their savings could be, how to plug all this stuff in on the back end. And you'll see there's a couple green hours there in September that I'll get back to in just a moment. So a couple other quick things here, just clicking through. You can see there's this highly incentivized hours later in September, a couple of them. We'll talk more probably and hear from Raghu and others about how battery storage providers are able to help customers harness the additional value that comes where they could get paid a fair amount in the September hours. But mostly you're seeing the exports just not valued very highly. These rates are locked in for the next, customers will lock in these rates for 9 years. After that, the export rate will vary over time. The ACC itself is updated over time, probably more than you need to know, and happy to tell you more, but just be aware that you cannot just cite one export rate number and have that assumed to be the number a customer will receive forever. Now, there is a glide path. So there are these adders you may have heard of, a little extra cents here and there that customers will receive starting now in 2023, and it phases down over time. You can see by 2027, those adders, to make it a little easier, a little more compensation, if you will, do phase down and go away. Because we're starting at such a low export rate amount, the adders don't do a heck of a lot, but you might want to know that these disadvantaged communities on the right-hand side here, they have higher adders. So if you're interested in serving customers who qualify for living in a disadvantaged community, the economics for them, for say a solar-only system that does want to make more money off of those exports, there could be a good case for them there. Moving quickly here, I hope everyone again will put questions in if you don't understand sort of the base scenario. Last couple points. Utilities aren't really going to be ready to bill for net billing in NEM 3.0 until the end of December. So we're really looking at what the 2024 export rates will be, and they're actually slightly higher. So something to note there. So anyone going solar today in California might actually be billed under a NEM 2 scenario and then see their billing shift later in the year. Their NEM 3 customers are just getting a near-term benefit. And again, there's those high value hours in September. We'll talk more about how a customer can leverage. Quick things to note. Customers are also on electricity rates, and this is why we say storage is so valuable. It's about self-consumption, storing that power in the middle of the day that would no longer be valuable to export, and using it to offset these really high peak prices in the evening. All NEM 3 customers will move to these electrification rates that have these higher on and off peak rate amounts. So you really want to help your customer avoid those penalizing rates. Note, they do have a $15 per month roughly fixed charge that they will pay regardless. A little bit more about the electricity rates. And this is where the battery storage comes in. You take that red zone that is no longer worth very much when you export it and shift that to become yellow zone and offset those high time of use rates later in the evenings. And this is where we can kick off a conversation more about right sizing the battery system, understanding customer goals. Do they want backup power? What kind of technology is available to them to maybe even export power during those few high value hours I showed you, where those green areas showed up on that chart. So that's, I think, where the conversation will go. I won't spend too much time on this. Maybe we can share the slides after, just some more details of the ruling. Maybe one thing to know is that your solar system can be sized to 150% of a customer's previous 12-month energy usage if they attest to the fact that they're going to use more energy going forward. So that's where you see someone saying, I'm going to buy an EV. So you can size that solar system larger so they can add more load. And we'll leave it there for now. I know that was kind of a lot and a little bit rambly, but I hope that gives everyone, the foundation we need to have the value discussion in a really informed way.
I think it does. Thank you, Julia. We've got the background now. JB, I kind of want to kick it over to you to maybe share another side of this, right? Because you were just telling me about a proposal you presented, walking in here. If I'm a customer in California today, why am I going solar?
Yeah, I think to your question, the value proposition, it's stronger than ever. What we've seen out there is partially mindset shift needs to happen. A lot of sales reps, ask, should I leave the state? Should I go elsewhere? And those are just some limiting beliefs, because the truth is the value proposition and the savings are just amazing. And the battery and the storage and the blackout protection, the technology they can have to load shift and offset from the grid, and the solutions that we have now, if they need the backup protection or no backup protection, that's now a thing that we can offer. So when you look at SoCal Edison, I saw a bill that was 41 cents on average kilowatt hour rate that they were paying. And when you look at PG&E, SDG&E, some of those prices are higher than the rates they charge in Hawaii. It's just a no-brainer. I think what it comes down to also is just a lot of us reps were used to kind of being order takers in Q1 and net metering 2.0 transition, and even at the end of last summer. Mm-hmm. And the reality, I think, is working a little bit harder on the lead gen, 3 to 5 times harder to get those at bats, because what we're finding is the sales are coming back once you show the value and have the options and the tools at your fingertips, and doing it ethically with the right training. Because some of the leaders, even the best of the best, have expressed, how many kilowatt hours of storage to solar kW. And so by going through the training that Enphase and other companies offer, just to be that competent sales professional, but boy, when we get an at-bat and a proposal, that value proposition, people don't know the difference from NEM 2, 7, 3. They just don't know. And we're here to now educate them and show them the amazing options and get rid of that mindset limiting beliefs, because we're going to kick butt.
Absolutely.
Can I add some more things? Julia did a great job in kind of explaining what the mechanics of it is. If I propose 3 key takeaways, right? The first one is, when you have production, overproduction in the middle of the day, don't export it to the grid, because you're going to get paid nothing. Unlike in NEM 2, where in the middle of the day when you had solar and it was overproducing, you got paid near retail rates. Now you're not going to get it, so don't export any energy into the grid. And the way you do that is by it's obvious, you charge your battery. The second thing that you do is it's time of use. Time of use spread is becoming much, much wider, right? If you look at what happened in 2021 to 2023, it's gone up significantly, right? What used to be 27 cents gone to 37 cents, what used to be 51 cents, and some utilities has gone to 81 cents, 81.6 cents. So late in the evening, don't consume. Use that energy that you stored in your battery to consume. And then the third thing is very clear. The utility is going to pay you handsomely for exporting as much energy as possible during certain times of the year. You can make substantial amount of money. Simple math. I think Julia showed $3.59, closer to $4 if you export between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. all of September. And actually the numbers smaller, but still significant in August. A homeowner with 10 kilowatt hours or more of battery, you can export, if possible. If you export 10 kilowatt hours, you're going to make $40 a day. A year, in that month, you're going to make $1,200. So I think the combination, a system that can take into account your consumption, your production, avoid exporting in the middle of the day, avoid buying energy in the middle in late evening, and then exporting as much as possible, you're going to have a fantastic value proposition. So if you look at the value prop, I mean, I've done tons and tons of design, right? We are looking at payback periods of 5 to 7 years, right? But payback is kind of a esoteric number. A lot of people don't like to think about payback. I think what's key is to think about how much of your bill can you offset. If you look at under NEM 2, you could offset 90+% of your bill because the grid was the battery. If you did with the solar only system, if you did solar only today under NEM 3, you're going to offset 55% of your bill. You know, it's a very small number. Now one beauty is you can put things west facing as well now. In fact, I encourage people to put modules west facing, put the panels west facing. You can put south and west. And you can move that 55% number up to close to 58%. But adding a small battery, even a 10 kilowatt hour battery or in 6.7 kilowatt hour battery, you can improve that payback, the bill offset from 55% to 70 to 90%, back up to NEM 2 rates. So for a net of ITC, if you were to invest something like $7,000 to $10,000 over the lifetime of the system, you're going to make close to $20,000, and in some utilities, you're going to make $30,000. So the math is really obvious, right? That put a small battery, and you accomplish those three things of don't export in the middle of the day, don't buy late in the evening, and export late in the evening when you get paid very handsomely for it.
Can I just say one thing to kind of, if anybody is listening to this, I can see people being confused of how were we so upset with that NEM 3 decision just a couple of months ago, and now we're sort of going, it's going to be okay, there's huge value. So I just want to explain one thing. First of all, Julia mentioned this. If we as California solar industry and can get policymakers to avoid taxing self-consumption, if we can preserve the right to self-generate our own energy to meet our own on-site energy needs, we will always have, I think it's safe to say, a huge value proposition for consumers because California's utilities have proven themselves incapable of keeping electricity rates manageable and low. And I think they're going to have a harder and harder time as it goes forward. I think, in fact, if we are able to keep growing, will keep those rates down more so than if they just did everything through utility scale. So preserving self-consumption was by and large the number one goal that makes it possible for us to still provide tremendous value, even with these lower export credits. But the key thing is that transition. And the transition is we have to move us quickly toward this all storage attached systems as we can to preserve that value as Raghu just walked through and as Julia's slides explained. And that therein is the rub, because are we going to be able to go from a 12 to 15% storage attachment rate market, which is where we are now and what we've been selling, to an 80% attachment? How quickly can we get there? So we all have to work together to get there as quickly as possible. But the transition is going to be difficult, and that's why I want to make it clear, especially if there's any policymakers listening to this, that was it's going to be an unnecessarily rough transition. And at a time when California needs to be tripling our build rates of solar, tripling to meet our clean energy goals, we're slowing and putting this added weight and sort of making things more difficult for ourselves. But as Raghu said, there's every reason to be bullish and optimistic. And as you guys have laid out, we still offer tremendous value. So we just need to reorient ourselves and move forward. But at the same time, I just don't want it to seem like we're sugarcoating what this decision, the impact that this decision has had, if that makes sense.
I share your goal there, Bernadette, 100%, and hope if there are any policymakers listening that in the future there is a more intelligent, sort of thoughtful plan about how we transition to this better future. On value prop still, and Raghu, I think that's a great sort of framework, right? Don't send your energy back to the grid. Don't export energy to the grid during the day. Don't buy it from it when it's really expensive. Consume it from yourself and sell it back to the grid, when you're getting paid the most for it. Boom, right? Like that's the future. Mark, I'd ask you, from a product standpoint, how do we do that? Or where are we at with this product? And I feel like people don't know how cool it is right now.
Well, thank you. It's actually coincidentally an ideal time for SPAN to have come together with Powur. And for all of you sellers out there, you are hearing complexity. You are hearing challenges for the homeowner to understand what is going on. And coincidentally, we at SPAN have brought a smart panel to the market. And what that does for you and your homeowners, it will actually tell them exactly how much power they're using by circuit, by time of day, by year, by month, by week, however they want to see it. And it's really the perfect complement to this situation. I almost think of it as a three-legged stool. You need solar to produce, you need a battery to store, and you need that smart electric panel to be your dashboard to help you see all of this. And for a very small additional adder, all of your homeowners can now get a true electrical dashboard for their home that will not only tell them exactly how much they're using, so now the benefit is they can change their behavior. Simple example of my house. I had a hot tub. It's running, it was doing its cycle at 5 p.m. at night. I didn't realize that. Super easy way for me to just reschedule it to run in the mornings, and now it's going to run during the lowest rate. So it's little things like that, these insights that you can get. You can use a smart panel to turn things off. With the kind of NEM 3 rates, I'd never want to run my electric dryer between, say, 5 and 9 p.m. at night. You can literally take your smart panel and say, don't run the dryer during these hours. So I think the ability to produce our power with solar, like we've all been dealing with, the ability to store it now is the big change that's really a huge benefit to the homeowner over time, as we're talking about, and the ability to have that deep insight and control as to what's happening in their house, how they're using their power, better ways to use that power, more intelligent and money-saving ways, in addition to the peace of mind that this gives them of knowing they have total control over their home, is really what SPAN is all about. What you all as power sellers are now able to take advantage to complement. And I think it's a great opportunity really to step up our game as an industry. You know, I think when we think about it, there were some comments about how it was a gold rush at the end of NEM 2, and of course it was, and no fault to anybody to get their best deal while they could get it. But in the new world, how do you sell more? How do you deliver more value? How do you really engage the trust of that homeowner and deliver the value they're looking for? You now have these tools in your pocket. You have solar, you have battery systems that can be adjusted in size, and you have the opportunity to offer them something like a SPAN panel that'll give them that deep insight, allow them to affect their behavior and really save the most money that they can, understand their usage, and really, take advantage of all this technology they're putting on their roof on the side of their garages.
So this is amazing. I hope you guys are all hearing that there's new products coming to market that are allowing homeowners to take advantage of these trends like never before. Raghu, I also, I've got one for you because, gosh, for years I would look at the forecasts around battery pricing and I'd be like, man, all these analysts were just wrong. Like these prices haven't come down in 5 years. Where's all those cheap batteries everybody was telling us about? But then 2023 happened. And I think everybody's noticing that all of a sudden, I feel like batteries are getting cheap. Like there's actually this, I want to use that word, like batteries are getting cheap. Like there's all these options with batteries now. You can do grid tied, you can do backup. The pricing has come down. Maybe you could give us some insights into where batteries are going, where have they come from, and why it's getting so good.
Yeah, we use the word battery as to represent just the cell and the chemistry, right? It's more to it than that. If you think about the elements of the battery, there is the cell, and then it gets put into a pack. Then there is the power electronics to charge the battery. Then there's the power electronics to discharge the battery. Then there's the communication, the software. So when you think about a battery, and when we use the word battery, we really mean a storage solution, right? That's what Enphase does, is that storage solution. Everybody has a role to play. The cell guys have to go figure out how are they reducing the cost of lithium chemistry, right? We have made a bet that it's going to be all about lithium iron phosphate, a very specific type of lithium chemistry that arguably is one of the safest chemistries that is out there, right? Alongside with what we control, all the power management, the communications, the software, all of that, we have done incredible amount of work in reducing the cost of that. So that's why you're seeing now cell chemistry costs is continuing to come down as more and more people are investing in factories, capacity is going up. You get 100 gigawatt hour factories. There are companies that are talking about going to have 500 gigawatt hours of production capacity, right? So the cell guys are going to continue down the path of reducing the cost of chemistry. And what we are doing is reducing the cost of everything in it beyond the cell, which is the power management, the communication, the software, the mechanical structure, etc. Because at the end of the day, what I envision is every home is going to have anywhere from 20 to 40 kilowatt hours of storage. Right? Why do I say that? Let's take a step back again. Let's look at the numbers. What's happening? Right? EV adoption's going up, heat pumps adoption's going up. Today, if you look at an average consumption per home, it's about 30 kilowatt hours per day. That's an average. If you look at an EV commutes about 12 kilowatt hours per day, an equivalent of 12. 40 miles translates to about 12 to 15 kilowatt hours per day. Add two EVs, that's 30 kilowatt hours. You just doubled your consumption from 30 kilowatt hours a day to 60 kilowatt hours a day. Add a heat pump, that's another 12 to 15 kilowatt hours a day. I'm well over 2x the consumption. 2x the consumption per home. I just saw a recent study. California says that by 2035, the average consumption per home is going to go up by more than 40%. Those are massive changes, right? How do you solve that? How do you solve that problem? Look at what's happening. If you look at the infrastructure again, sorry, I'm geeking out on some numbers here and trying to give the background and the technology about why what we are doing is, we as in our industry is doing, is so vital, right? If you look at it from the infrastructure point of view, yes, there are problems to solve on the centralized generation side and the transmission side. The biggest bottleneck is in the distribution infrastructure. It's the substation, it's the conductors, it's the utility transformer, the pole mount transformer, it's the conductors that come to the service entrance, etc. Right? That's where the bottleneck is. And the way to solve that is by solar. You know, it could be 10, 15 kilowatts of solar per home, 40 kilowatt hours of storage per home. You know, EV will have to be managed, heat pumps will have to be managed, and you have to tie all of these pieces together with an energy management system, right? And so the fundamental challenge is, I think Mark said, hey, this illustrates complexity, and that's the problem we have to solve. It has to become very, very simple, both for the folks, the power folks who are trying to sell this product, the folks, our installer partners who actually go out there and install the product, folks who are maintaining the product. It has to be really, really simple, right? And that's what we do. So think about it like this. Every time you buy an EV, right? Bernadette talked about self-consumption. Every time you buy an EV, think about you'll have to add about a kilowatt to 2 kilowatts of PV and 10 kilowatt hours of battery storage. Right? That's where we are going. So it's cost of Jonathan, your original question about, hey, cost of batteries are becoming cheap. Yeah, they're becoming absolutely cheap. Cells are becoming cheap. All the power electronics, communication, everything is trending in the right direction in terms of cost. But you got to solve a bigger problem than that, and you got to solve the problem of procurement, financing. A big deal. We got to make it really simple to finance these things. We need batteries to last for 25 years. Solar's already 25 years. Now we need batteries which were 10. We have moved up to 15. They need to get to 25. So the financing becomes really simple. We need the installations to be very simple. We need maintenance to be simple. And the most important of all, I forgot to mention, you have to start with design, the design and modeling of these systems. So when you generate your proposal, it's a financial instrument now. You're generating a proposal that has to be really simple for the homeowner to understand. If I put a 10 kilowatt hour of battery, I'm going to get an 85% bill offset with a 7 to 9 year payback, and then ensuring that system actually delivers that to the homeowner, right? So that's kind of how, those are the things that we have to get our head around. As a technology player, our job is to make it really, really simple for both folks like Powur who are selling this product to the market, installer partners who are installing it and maintaining it.
So on that note, we're back to present moment, right? Today, if I'm a consumer, how do I optimize the value proposition in California? Is there a quick framework? How do I make this simple? Do I need 2 batteries for every 8 kW of solar? What's my basic formula?
Yeah, it has to be simple. So the way it is there's a design, for the approach we have taken is a very simple design and proposal tool. You ask the homeowner, a couple of questions about, hey, are you, for example, a daytime user or are you a late evening user? Or even simple, just give me your green button data, last 12 months of data. That's it, right? And then the system simply designs it for you. And then it says, okay, here's the size of the solar system you need. Here's the size of the battery system that you need. If you have an EV, here's an EV charger that you need that can kind of, manage it all, that you can control intelligently. And then it's giving the homeowner choice. Hey, if you want 70% bill offset, here's your choice. The system's going to cost X. If you want 85% bill offset, this is what you'll need. You'll need, 3 batteries. But it has to be simple, and we have done that. If you look at our design and proposal tool that we have developed, because it's needed. You have to simulate the entire operation of the system for 25 years in order to arrive at the number. And at the end of the day, it's really simple. It's going to be X size solar, whatever, 10 kilowatt of solar, it's going to be 10 kilowatt hours of battery, and you're going to get your 70, 80% bill offset, whatever it may be in that particular instance. But it's been made very, very simple using the tool. It has to be done with the tool. The NEM 3 is complex enough that it warrants, you can't do back of the envelope calculations anymore.
Yeah, if I could jump in, I know I was the one who really wonked out there with some numbers and probably put everyone to sleep, but it just goes to show that the complexity on the back end is really there. It's important to know. So I think, professionals will do themselves justice by spending some time getting into the details and, asking for resources where helpful, but it has to be simple for the customer at the end of the day. I do think the conversations are getting a little more 3D, if you will, and that you have to talk about value. I've heard that word several times on the panel today. It's not just about cost savings, comparing your solar rate versus the utility. I think sales professionals are going to become truly advisors, consultants, energy consultants to the homeowner and maximizing the value their home can provide to them. It's an incredibly valuable asset. And so thinking about that shift, I think, is important. And so I have a couple more slides to share that I think do provide some general rules of thumb if we're able to get those up. So just to double click, in case you're a visual learner, we talked about green button data, and it sounds like SPAN has tools for you as well on really understanding that customer's usage profile, their current one and their future one. There are tools available. They're maybe not as good as they could be, not as easy to access as we all wish, but they are out there to find that historical usage data and then plan for the customer going forward. Every customer is going to be a little bit different. To Raghu's point about what size battery is best suited for them. Do they want backup? Are they just really going for maximum savings? Are they okay with a higher loan amount, say, to get that large battery system and solar together that will actually pay off faster over time? Or is that not something they're interested in? Really asking those probing questions will help you deliver that value to the customer. So really starting with a few more questions in your sales conversation, I think, is where everything starts under NEM 3.0. Quickly going to solar-only systems, it was mentioned briefly, I think, by Raghu, shifting to the Southwest and West, because we know customers are paying more for power later in the day. You want to maximize how much power they're able to generate later in the day. So just shifting the orientation could help you deliver more savings to your customer. Again, this is solar only. So there is still a way, we think, to get value with solar only systems in California. Not everyone's ready to install a battery tomorrow. So this is one way you can provide more value to your customer. So don't just do the south-facing systems of the past, I think, under this new framework. One other tip for solar only is have discussions about energy management tools. What else can they power in the middle of the day? Can they run their dishwasher, their dryer? Are there new electrified products they want to add, like an EV, like a heat pump, that utilize power in the middle of the day with smart controls? And so that, again, gets back to the self-consumption point. You really want to use that solar power on the roof to power elements within the home, because as we know, the exports just aren't worth what they used to be. If you're just doing solar only, and again, it depends on what the customer's usage profile is, but you probably want to aim for a 60% offset. You don't need to oversize systems anymore. There's no real value to that large solar system that's not getting compensated in the middle of the day. And then, of course, we talk about batteries. You saw me present a similar slide like this. I just wanted to double click on it. And I know Powur has one as well that we could show up that presents a little more detail, but taking that exported energy and shifting it to those high expensive hours in the evening is so key. And it sounds like Enphase and others will have solutions that see that yellow spike, help you actually export when you're getting paid $4 in the evening hours of 6 to 8 p.m. In September. So just wanted to, again, present some visuals here and some rules of thumb on some ways to sell, but it really is a little bit more complex in the sense that each customer is different, but that's also a big opportunity if you have that value conversation.
I'd like to reinforce, Julia always drops a ton of nuggets, guys, and I just want to reinforce a few things there that there is a little bit of a weeding out of solar consultants right now because it's not one size fits all anymore. We really have to double down on the discovery questions up front to provide the solutions for a more complex sale. It's a consultative approach now. So the discovery questions to show the right solutions. And now, there's financing, there's lease, backup, no backup, there's EVs, there's heat pumps like they mentioned. And what we're finding, a lot of my top leaders are finding, is that there are other companies or sales people out there that are not doing batteries and not doing right by the homeowner. So I really think it's not one size fits all, and the discovery questions, guys, are more important than ever.
Can I just add one other thing really quick, Jonathan? I feel like the utilities always try their darndest to slow us down and to hurt us. And this industry, one of the reasons why I've been so committed to working on behalf of you all in Sacramento is because every time they try to knock us down, we innovate. and we modify ourselves and we come out stronger. So I think at the end of the day, what we're selling is an even better product than NEM 2.0, in so much as we are now on the precipice of offering consumers even greater energy independence and greater self-reliance, less dependence on PG&E. And that is incredible. So we have it's like self-consumption is not necessarily a word that I think flows off our tip of our tongue. So we can get it into it with the charts and stuff, but most consumers, they just want relief and they want an alternative to PG&E and they want to stop sending their money to PG&E. This is what we have to offer. So it's an even better product in the end. So if we can channel that energy, that should get us through this hump and into this, sort of brighter future. Because as Raghu, prices are only going to go up and electricity needs are only going to go up. That's why the utilities fight so hard to keep us from this self-consumption market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly as Bernadette said, one in terms of what Julia talking about value, all the modeling we do, we assume a very conservative utility escalation, price escalation, right? The reality is utility rates are going up much faster than any of the modeling that we have done. We assume a very moderate 4%, but I think 4% is a laughable number. Even if you look at simply time of use spreads, they've gone up significantly from what it was even in 2021. I'm sure Bernadette knows the precise number, but I think PG&E rates went up last year by 14 or 18%, right? Not 4%. So I think when you invest in solar and batteries today, it's a hedge against future utility rate hikes. And future utility rate hikes, in my opinion, are absolutely coming. The demand's going up. The demand with whole home electrification, and the way you meet the demand is you have to do a lot of your infrastructure work. Your infrastructure work is very expensive, and it's volumetric pricing. It's divvied up amongst all us ratepayers. Utility rates are going to go up a lot, and they went up 18% last year. So one of the big things you're doing, investing in solar and battery today, is you are hedging against future rate increases.
Yeah, one thing I also just want to follow on and make sure everybody hears this. This was something Jonathan said, but it is of critical importance right now that we educate ourselves so that we can lead with integrity in the marketplace. There will be consultants who are not educated and they won't even know, and maybe sometimes they do know what they're doing. But it's important that we provide consumers with a real, amazing value proposition so that our industry continues to have the support and really just is winning at delivering better value to the end consumers. And there is some risk, with all of this change and how abruptly this change happened, that if people are saying, hey, here's 100% solar offset with no battery, that's not reality anymore, right? So if you see those kinds of proposals, call it out, and we've got to be the ones to really lead with the right education and value proposition and integrity for the homeowners, and that's definitely going to come back to benefit everybody in the long run. So,
hey, Jonathan, let me just think one comment on that. I think what's so important to all the salespeople out here when you're talking to that homeowner is doing that discovery. And there's a few simple things you can do to differentiate yourself, to deliver that right value, to expose the people maybe not playing the game as it should be played. Simple question. Hey, we're going to put some batteries on the side of your house to store that energy. Would you like them to work when the power goes out? That simple question will drive tremendous conversation on understanding of what they're buying, what it's capable of, an economic decision of whether to invest in backup or not. Would you like to understand how you use your power and the ability to control it better? Same thing. Some people will say, no, that's not my thing, too much for me. A few discovery questions will lead into the benefits that you can deliver them without all the complexity, to understand their requirements and their goals from the system you're selling them and offering them. And if you do that, you'll also offset the challenges that we face in the industry by having conversations around those topics, helping you win the deal, winning the customer's trust, and ultimately deliver them the value that satisfies and makes them happy as well.
Thank you, Mark. JB, I got another one for you. In terms of trying to make this easier, right? We all know that this has to be easy for everybody, and there's an inherent change happening here and complexity, and we've got to try to find the way to meet in the middle. So, knowing the tools that we have at our disposal today, right? The tools that are available to the marketplace. You, Cynthia, Paul, many of the amazing leaders of this company are starting to really get active again. What are you guys doing to make it simple for consumers to say yes and understand what they're buying, and for you to figure out also what's the best value proposition for them?
That's a great question and forever evolving. You know, I see Jordan Shaw here as well, and Cynthia and a few of us. And I think, you know, even just from a leadership training perspective, right, we have weekly California market development calls where we continue to talk about these topics. You know, next time we are going through live examples of how 3 different reps look at the same bill and how they present it independently. They're not going to be able to hear each other do it. So we're going to see from the top people how they do it. And part of the steering committee is, and you know, we're almost done with the cheat sheet, showing averages of production from the solar and then the battery storage recommendation. You know, it's been tossed out there that 1.5 to 2.5 times the kilowatt hour battery should be from the solar PV. So that's kind of a cheat sheet as well. And like Raghu said, there's lots of systems and tools out there, whether you're looking at Enphase or other systems or Open Solar, Power Vision or Solo. They do have sliders and recommendations, you know, so I always more evening usage to be on the more conservative side and do things like that. And then you look at the solutions, right? So I know Cynthia is finding tremendous value in cash when she's asking the right discovery questions and she leans into that. Other times the consumer is all about the monthly and the savings, and they may want to move in a few years. And when you look at lease solutions, especially in this high interest rate market, and you possibly look at battery replacement or warranty of 25 years without the debt or the loan to value, well, boy, the lease is looking pretty good these days. So being able to pivot between the GoodLeap loan, the cash, or knowing that lease number with those benefits is key. And the discovery questions is such an integral part of that.
Well, maybe that's a great segue into financing. Another major sort of lesson 2023 is teaching us all is how critical financing really is for the solar industry. And in a lot of ways, our industry is tied at the hip of financing. So what are the best ways to finance in this NEM 3 environment that we're all seeing right now?
Maybe I can jump in as the financial player, one of on the panel. I think the key word it comes back to is value and matching the customer's specific needs. If a customer, you know, for instance, is going to be moving in 10 to 15 years, it probably makes more sense to consider a loan where they're paying off their principal balance up front until that point, and then can have a smooth home selling experience. So it's about asking that customer what they want to achieve. I think value again comes in as we discussed this discovery question. What else does a customer want to look to do in their home? Do they need a roof upgrade? Are they going to have to do that anyway? Do they want to bundle a solar installation and a battery installation with a roof upgrade? Maybe they want to get that heat pump, the electric heat pump, to run on their solar and battery storage. Let's bundle that into a loan. There could be other insulation and other retrofits that they make so that they don't oversize their HVAC system to begin with and have a more efficient home that's not so leaky. You know, we at GoodLeap are really working with all of our installer and sales professional partners on how to make that super, super simple. To Raghu's point, we need simple financing. We think we have one of the best solutions on the market in terms of the technology we can offer. And so a loan in that scenario may actually be the best product for a customer to wrap those different solutions together and actually see even greater savings in the long term because they were able to bundle in that way. So it really comes back to what a customer is trying to achieve. There may be other scenarios where, you know, that's not the right product for them. But I will say that at GoodLeap, we have some of our fastest growing installers in states with cheaper energy rates than California, growing with a 599 APR product, focusing on selling these multiple products with a better understanding of what really works for them. I'll also just add one more perspective here while we're on financing. If you go with a loan, for instance, that customer gets the ITC, the federal tax credit, right? That's something they can report on their own taxes, get that money right back into their bank account on their tax return. One perspective to think about, the median balance for an American household, you know, that will probably be a $5,000, $5,500 tax credit they could get. A lot of Americans have roughly that much or more in credit card debt. So if you think about this a little bit differently, what if you took that ITC payment you got back and could pay down your credit card, which has a 21% interest rate right now, and the customer is paying that off at a real premium. So you think about your solar as not just this incredible investment in your home and maximizing the value of the utility, compensating you at certain days and having a more efficient, comfortable, healthy home, but you could pay down your credit card debt in a faster, cheaper way because you're pocketing that ITC and the customer would be and choosing to repay their credit card, as one example. So I think, our team, our BD professionals, who I hope folks on the call have a contact for. If not, I'm sure we're happy to connect you. They can help, installers and sales professionals walk through those kinds of conversations so the customer isn't just thinking about nickel and diming monthly costs and really what is going to suit their needs overall and being that real energy consultant in the home.
Yeah, I love it, Julia. I also am also wishing that all of a sudden I had a lease counterpart here too, so we could understand how both these financing products really have a pivotal sort of role to play in the future going forward. For the last 5 years, we've really lived in a loan-dominated marketplace. And with interest rates increasing, there is beginning to be, a shift in a balancing between leases and loans. And so I'm just wondering if someone else wants to comment on perhaps what is the value of a lease in this marketplace. And I love what you shared too about, again, the differentiating components of a loan and the discovery and when it really makes sense. And I think it's just important that we've got all the education so that we can have that discovery and offer consumers the product that is going to make the most sense for them.
I don't have anything to comment specifically about lease or loans. We've got wonderful partners like GoodLeap on the loans, and we've got good partners who do leases as well. It's a customer choice, right? That's the beauty of it. The only comment I'd like to make here is about the asset class, right? Solar is an asset class, or people when they buy solar and they finance it, the default rates are one of the lowest in the industry. And so by definition, what that means is it's going to take a little bit of time, but the interest rates will come down specifically for solar as a class of product, because like I said, people don't turn off their solar, because what's the alternative? You turn off your solar, you're going to pay more to buy from the utility. So you really do want to keep your solar going, which means you want to make your monthly payments on time. There are other incentives also, right? I mean, when you look at what the Inflation Reduction Act did, it brought in a lot of local manufacturing. So, Enphase has started producing manufacturing products here in the US, which is a pretty big selling point. I just came back from visiting a bunch of our partners in the East Coast, and they all said, yeah, made in USA product is actually a selling point for the homeowner. But what the IRA has also done is now there's discussion about an additional, so we went from 22% of the tax credit to now 30% tax credit. That means that, there's good savings for the homeowner. And there is a lot of discussion that's happening in terms of understanding what does domestic content mean. Domestic content adds another 10% on top of that. And then there are other adders that can get up to as much as 50% of your investment you get as tax credit. So I think all in all, the combination of the stuff that we are doing with adding battery, the evolving role of the battery, payback periods are becoming healthy. Utility rates are continuing to climb. You've got great incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act. The asset class has very low default rates. I think all of these make this a very, very compelling value proposition for the homeowner. And I think, Jonathan, to your point, it is really boils down to how do you make the sale very, very simple. The fundamentals are clear. They're all in place. Not worried about it. It's just about taking the next step and making that sale very simple, and then followed up with very simple install, very simple maintenance of the system.
I'd like to speak to the lease for 1 second. And I don't know if Julia and Raghu can see the chat here, but everyone loved your analogy of the tax credit paying off worse debt, Julia. That was a great one. And even the Enphase sizing guide was posted in the chat as well. But just to circle back on leases and PPAs for a second, there's some companies out there that a few of us used to work at that pay you more commission when you sell a lease, or they're even pushing batteries in other states where they're not going to get leads or they're not going to get compensated as much. So I just want to point out that I love about Powur is that we can do a GoodLeap loan without backup. Cynthia can do cash. Owen Carey can close a lease for our leads and our referrals. So we have the ability here, unlike other companies, large companies that incentivize certain products that they want to. So I just want to call that out. And I do think when we look at other major nationwide companies that we are seeing the product mix go to 40 some percent being leased PPA now. So whatever is in the best interest of the homeowner, whether it's a monthly lease, escalator, no escalator, or even a really interesting category is the prepaid upfront lease, and being owned for 25 years by one of these companies, you do get some added benefits like the batteries and things like that. So really undressing if they want to pay it off, if they benefit from that tax credit, or if they're truly just in it for the savings and having that consultative approach. But we are seeing more leases in the industry from my angle.
So with maybe the big takeaway for everyone watching, that there's a variety of options and solutions to meet unique individual customer needs. And you've got all those solutions at your disposal. And it's really up to each of us to learn how to use the tools, be equipped with the tools and really learn how to use the tools. But under NEM 3, I think more than ever, you're really going to need to know the right time to sell a loan, the right time to sell a lease, the right time to present cash and show the value of the asset. And I think that is a part of this new reality. Before it was really all loan and nobody else cared, and some people wanted to pay cash. That's not the case anymore. You've got to have a little bit more knowledge of the tools, but those tools are very effective. They work, and they're still delivering value. You guys good to maybe move on to one of our final topics here before we open it up to some Q&A?
Let's do it.
So this one is really exploring sort of what's possible in the future under NEM 3 and with this unique new product mix. And Raghu, you started to get into this a little bit with your kind of three-part framework of don't export, buy from yourself in the evening and sell it back, baby. But I think that third piece is a radically new concept certainly for California, maybe almost anywhere. Where's this going, right? What do you see this turning into?
The way I think about it, great question, by the way, Jonathan. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. So, NEM 3 is a precursor, in my view, to getting real-time pricing signals from the utility, where the utility will tell us day ahead that says, hey, this is what the price is going to be. This is how much we're going to charge you tomorrow for buying energy from us at different times of the day. And this is what you're going to get paid for exporting. If you really take a step back, what is the utility signaling to us? It's market rate. We are market rate participants. In some sense, I think about it as our industry coming of age. We are now a mature and an important player in the energy mix of the entire utility infrastructure. So that's why in the middle of the day, they pay us nothing because there's a lot of supply in the system. There's not enough demand. In fact, it's really interesting if you think about the famous or infamous duck curve, right? There was this whole notion of a duck curve and what it did in the middle of the day. Now that duck curve has changed into what's called canyon cliffs. That's a whole new terminology, and I encourage people to go read about it. It's really interesting stuff. So NEM 3 is prescribed. It says this is what the utility is going to charge for time of use, and this is what the utility will compensate you for exporting. But I think it's, like I said, a precursor to the utility telling us a day ahead, saying this is how much we're going to charge you for kilowatt hours. And I thought California was way ahead. Unfortunately, starting in Q4, or fortunately, both Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany, all three of those countries are sending now, starting in Q4, day-ahead pricing. So 24 hours ahead, we're going to get a signal. Hey, this is what your buy rate is going to be. This is what your sell rate is going to be. So the system that's running, that is in real time, making decisions, the energy management system that says, oh, when should I charge my battery? When should I discharge my battery? What are the things that I can control? All of that engine has to become very, very dynamic, very, very sophisticated. But fast forward to even 24 months from now, you're going to have EVs, and EVs are going to become bidirectional, which means EV is not just a consumer of energy now. EV can now participate. It can potentially export energy, whether that is to self-consume or that is to maximize exporting into the grid. So I think the future is super exciting from a technology point of view, and the things we are having a lot more levers to pull. Our energy management system can in real time decide, okay, charging, discharging of the battery, charging, discharging of the car, when to buy from the grid, when to sell from the grid. All of this is complex, but that complexity is completely abstracted away from the homeowner as well as as our installer partner. The software really is becoming very, very sophisticated and very, very intelligent. That's the future. Very soon after that, what happens? I am a unit of intelligence. I have all of this energy within my home. I'll have excess energy. I should be able to trade my energy with my neighbor, right? I should be able to trade energy with my neighbor. I should be able to make that a market rate to trade my energy, which means I'm selling from my neighbor, I'm buying from my neighbor, right? All of that is coming over the next 24 to 36 months. So when I think about our industry is becoming really sophisticated, really, really interesting. And I think Julia made the comment about we have to morph ourselves from being solar sales people to energy consultants, energy professionals. That's what we are. But the times ahead are very, very interesting, very exciting.
Raghu, maybe I could ask you one question on that. This is something that I'm curious about myself. So incredibly exciting, the prospect to be able to have a real marketplace where we're buying and selling energy back to the grid and getting compensated for it. Are the assets that we as consumers are purchasing today going to be able to be updated simply by software? Are we future-proofed in a way? If I buy that Enphase battery 24 months from now, 36 months from now, are we talking these are just software updates? Are there going to be hardware updates required? Like maybe you could share a little bit more with us about understanding this asset that we're buying today.
Yeah, I want to be careful. I want to represent the industry. I don't want to completely represent Enphase alone. Having said that, yes, with Enphase, we really make it a point to make sure that we are always future-proof. That's why we are what's called an AC coupled system. That way, solar is coming in AC, batteries are coming in AC, EVs coming in AC. We really take what's called a platform approach to it. Think about it, an operating system, right? So solar was the first application that was running on that platform. Now we are adding battery as an application that's running on the platform, just like your phone. You now have your EV that's plugging in. The utility is just another element of that platform. And the software has to be really smart, really adaptive to understand not all homes will have all the applications. So not all homes will have solar and EV. Some homes may have only solar and battery. Some homes may only have solar and EV. That's a really powerful use case as well, right? So you have to architect the system. And this is where architecture really matters. You want an architecture that is very scalable, right? Scalable because not everybody's home's needs are the same. Somebody may be a daytime user, they'll need less batteries. Somebody may be a peaky late evening consumer. They come home in the evening, they turn on more of they work outside the home, they're not retirees. And so you have to adapt the system, you have to size the system to meet their needs. So you need a system that's very modular, very scalable. That's what we do with our solar and battery systems. And then you need a system that can adapt itself over time. Tomorrow, like I said, real-time pricing signals come from the utility. It should be a software chain. That's what we strive to do, is to make a system, build a system that is very, very scalable and very, very future-proof and adaptable into the future. And being in the AC domain, if you think about it, if you do everything on the AC side, it's the same AC that goes across to your neighbors and your neighbor's neighbors. So if we think about a future where we are starting to send energy, buy and send energy between us and the neighbors, it's all seamless. It all happens in the same AC domain, if you may. So we really pay an inordinate amount of attention to architecture in order to make things future-proof. But as an industry, we have to keep thinking like that as well.
Can I build
Wonderful.
on that answer, Jonathan?
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with Raghu more. CalSA actually was the first to propose a real-time pricing proposal to the Public Utilities Commission. It was as many as 6 years ago. Didn't go very far because the commission was not ready for that kind of forward-thinking vision. We are making progress, though, on virtual power plants, which is all part and parcel of what the vision that Raghu just put forward. We just got the Energy Commission, a different state agency than the Public Utilities Commission. There's another one just put forward a brand new program to allow average everyday homeowners with batteries to participate in a virtual power plant program. What is so interesting to me, as somebody who has been advocating for rooftop solar for over 20 years, 20 years ago, the main arguments against solar was that it's unreliable. There were so many slides showing cloud cover. I kid you not, that the utilities and the naysayers put forward of we really shouldn't be investing in solar at all because it's unreliable. We, of course, proven that wrong. It took us some time to prove it wrong. The same place we are in that same place with batteries. A lot of regulators don't yet trust that the energy will be there when they need it. We have to prove it. Give us a couple of years and then the sky's the limit on what we're going to be able to do and sharing and basically inverting, as Raghu said earlier, inverting the structure of the grid so it's local up as opposed to top down. But we got a lot of headwinds against us. But if we can keep at it and prove the technology will work, which is what this new program at the Energy Commission allows us to do, then we can grow.
You're saying you see a future in which we're going to be more influential in advocating for the rates that we get paid when we discharge our batteries.
Absolutely. The NEM 3 is kind of just an opening. It's a rough opening, right? It's like an entry into a new planet that was rougher than it needed to be, but it opens us up by bringing the battery in, that sophisticated software opens us up to now providing so much more value to the grid, and then we have to advocate to get compensated for it. But
I've got the tingles when I hear that right now, because literally, I don't know if you can all like feel this, but like you feel into a future in which we as consumers are getting paid, a meaningful amount of money to participate in sharing energy with the grid. And what that does to our value proposition, when you're making $1,200 a year or $1,500 a year or more off of that relationship with the grid, and that is an exciting future.
It is, and it's going to be so much cheaper than doing it the way of the 1900s, right? The 1900s grid is not going to survive the 21st century. It just can't.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think Bernadette makes a really interesting point here, right? This is a problem of abundance. This is not a problem of scarcity. We have plenty of energy, especially here in California, free energy. It's simply a matter of harnessing it and using it appropriately. This is not something, like I said, when you have, I learned this from, I got to tell you this little story. I learned this from my 13-year-old. Like every dad, I walk behind her and I turn the lights off in the room, right? Seems like dads have that DNA in them. And one day she turns around and saying, Dad, why do you keep turning the lights off? We have plenty of solar. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. We have plenty of solar. I really don't need to turn the lights off, right? So we really are dealing with a problem of abundance. And what's happening now, and NEM 3 is really the stepping stone into it, is that the resources, the homes becoming, resources that are becoming available, that have been enabled by it, are such that the home's just becoming that much more powerful, that much more resource rich, many more levers to pull to deliver whatever the use case the homeowner wants. The homeowner may want self-consumption, purely bill optimization. No problem, that's software. A homeowner may say, I care about the bill, but not as much. I want carbon optimization, which means I want to absolutely minimize buying anything from the grid, right? That's an option. Another homeowner may say, I only want resiliency. I don't want anything else, right? Or a fourth homeowner may say, I only want green charging. I only want to charge. I bought an EV. I don't want to charge it from fossil fuel, right? I only want to charge it from clean electrons, which comes from my solar, right? So all of those things are possible. The beauty of the world where we are headed to, we are now here and heading into, is choice. Consumers will have much more choice. Utility was their only choice. They had nothing else. Now they have a lot of choice, a lot of control, a lot of independence.
If I could jump in maybe quickly, I mean, I will make a play for efficiency. I still think there's a reason to maybe turn off your lights, especially if you're going for that bill savings element. Otherwise, your usage will increase and maybe you won't see as much as you thought. But in Raghu's case, he's got plenty of solar, I'm sure. So he can,
and LEDs.
And LEDs, you can justify it. And that gets into a conversation we can have maybe a little later if we have time about fixed fees and proposals in California. But I do want to double click on something Bernadette was talking about, of making sure that we are compensated fairly for the value that distributed energy does provide. And just a little painting of a picture there is, folks on the call will probably remember coming up almost a year ago in September, when California's grid was truly on the brink and the state had to text all the consumers asking them to, lower their usage, and consumer action really saved the grid from the brink. And what wasn't factored into that were how many hundreds of batteries? 80,000, according to CalSA, customer-cited batteries connected to the grid during that time, this time last year, so probably many more today, that were also helping the grid in that moment. They were taking strain off the grid as we were confronting that really hot heat wave. And that's roughly the equivalent just from those 80,000 batteries. Even if you assume they weren't all operating right in the middle of that heat wave, surely customers were using the battery storage for their own purposes, but some were also exporting back to the grid right when the grid needed it, about the equivalent of a natural gas power plant's worth of power. That is real value. That is distributed energy coming together, being aggregated, and putting value back on the grid as a resource. And so I think there's going to be a lot of conversations we have to have in making those points about just how much our collective power is of all these individual systems. Again, almost half of solar capacity in California last year came from rooftop, specifically residential. You factor in commercial rooftop and it is about half. That is a conversation we have to talk about the real power of our sector that I think is sometimes missing because we only see it in onesie-twosies individual homes.
One of my favorite facts is the biggest battery on the planet is hanging on the garages of California consumers. If you add up all of those 100,000 now batteries in California, and we're just getting started, it adds up to greater capacity than any battery, Moss Landing, Australia, wherever you go around the planet. What we have done so far adds together to be the biggest battery in the world. And we're just getting started. It's this really cool fact about what we've built even so far and the power of aggregating small distributed consumer systems.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, any final thoughts you want to share about what's possible in the future now that you see?
You know, here at SPAN, of course, we've got this platform. We think of our smart panel as like an iPhone, where you've got this core hardware technology. Now you layer the software on top. And it allows you to do all kinds of things, just like, you know, to Raghu's excellent point about distributing this intelligence to the edge, and Bernadette's point about aggregating it together. We at SPAN plan to be right in the heart of this. Knowing when to turn something on, knowing when to turn it off, having the ability to advise in that, to better react to a pricing signal, to control an appliance or a circuit in the house. So I think these days are very real, and I think back to all the folks here from a salesperson's perspective, when you're talking to the consumer and trying to get them excited about the value you're delivering, paint that picture of the investments they're making, not just to save the money they're going to help save today, but to prepare themselves for this future that's coming our way.
Does anybody know someone that owns an electric car, drives an electric car? Raise your hand. Let me see you guys out there. Everybody, right? I say it's the new Corolla of California. And to Raghu's point, like, the grid is going to double its need. It's only going to happen. Like, yes, right now there's been a little NEM 3 hangover. Yes, we're figuring out some of the solutions. And yes, there's a constraining of some of the sales professionals. Some will be weeded out. Some may not have the right tools. Some may leave this market. But what I've been saying, and a few of us, if you can hang on 6, 12, 18 months, we're just going to get warmed up with these summer bills that we're all experiencing right now, guys. We're starting to see it now. There's multiple people on Facebook, every community group's like, who knows a solar person? They don't know if it's NEM 2, 1, 3, doesn't matter. So I just urge you, get the training, get the learning in now, attend the leadership meetings, whatever company you're at, especially Powur, and hang in there. Attend the B&Is, double down, triple down on your lead generation, and be that competent consultative consultant with the right discovery questions, because it's only going to take off for the next 10 years, and all of these tools that everyone here is speaking to is going to give us the tools that continue to kick butt.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ditto everything everyone said, and I just think it's remarkable, actually, what's possible from here forward. And if I could double down on any one message, it's really, understand that these batteries are an asset unlike our end consumers have ever had before. Under NEM 3, under this change, your battery is an asset that you can monetize in multiple different ways. And it is the job of us educators and consultants to really show people the value of the asset that they are purchasing and all the different ways that they're going to be able to benefit their lives from this asset, both physical in their home and energy usage and protection and independence, and then economic and financial in how they save money, how they sell energy back to the grid, etc. So we have the best product, hands down. The utilities can't beat that, ladies and gentlemen. These are the best products. It takes a whole ecosystem. It really does. It takes a whole ecosystem to pull this off, from policy to manufacturing to financing to the products to the education and the training and the systems. And I hope you all really feel that we are in this together. We have a dynamic future that we're creating right here. And it's really up to us. It's up to us. And there's so much possible. And I just thank all of you guys for really being here today to steward this conversation and help steward the industry as leaders in where we're going next. So thank you so much. Give it up for our panelists, everybody. And we're going to do show your love, show your love. They just shared a lot of brilliance and a lot of wisdom and a lot of heart with everybody. So we've got 10 minutes left for a brief Q&A. So go ahead and drop your questions here. Yes, we appreciate you all as well. We love you all as well.
I'll throw one to Julia while you guys are typing your questions in the chat. I think someone asked earlier once or twice about this looming income fixed charge fee we saw in the news. Julia, maybe you can give us just a quick update to those that are aware of that.
Yeah, I'll tee it up. I'm sure Bernadette will have some thoughts as well. But yeah, so an income-based fixed charge. This was something that the California legislature passed, I guess, last year in law, saying that they were going to remove the cap on what utilities could charge all customers in California and base that fixed fee off of income. So there would be at least 3 tiers: lower, middle, and higher income earners who each pay some different kind of fixed fee. When I say fixed fee, it's like something you cannot offset with solar savings or efficiency savings. This would be a mandated amount that everyone would pay each month. Why that's challenging is, we'll figure out the right amount for that. Like I said earlier, NEM 3 customers actually do pay a fixed fee of around $15 as part of being on the NEM 3 rate. So we debated what that amount should be, and the regulators determined that was a fair amount to ensure solar customers are paying their fair share for the grid. This other proceeding, which is ongoing right now, there's discussions of having fees be as high as $120+ per month for those high income earners. Wow. And the hard part is, what are those 3 tiers going to look like? There's a lot of medium income earners in California who'd end up paying really, really high fixed charges every month that they could not offset with solar savings. Again, you can't get around a fixed charge. That's by design. So, the solar industry never opposed the concept of having income-based fixed fees, but we certainly have thoughts on what an appropriate fee should be. And I think the utility proposals are far too high and will honestly punish low energy users and moderate income families across the state who won't be able to get around those high fixed charges by saving energy with efficiency or solar, et cetera. And we want to help provide those solutions to Californians at a time when we know that many are looking for monthly savings more than ever, and solar really is one of those solutions. We're not alone in this. There's a lot of other nonprofits, environmental groups, efficiency stakeholders who also have, some challenges with this proposal from the utilities, and we're debating it out right now. And so Bernadette, I'm sure, has some thoughts here too.
Yeah, I'll just add that, look, the utilities make their money by building large transmission lines and siting power plants as far away from where people live, work, and play as possible. That's how they maximize profit. And they look at that energy usage increase scenario that Raghu mentioned, and they just see dollar signs. So they're trying to lock in their market share, their growing market share, as quickly as possible. One way to do that is to tax self-consumption, and there's more than one way to do it. They tried to do it with the solar tax. We defeated it, but they're coming back with a utility tax. The only difference is that this utility tax will apply to everybody, whether they have solar or not. It'll still cut down on the benefits of solar as well as the benefits of any other energy use, energy management saving devices. We have to stop this and keep it from going off the rails, which is where it's right now headed. The decision will come at us sometime early 2024, and then it will not be rolled in until probably 2026. So what we're doing now is protecting consumers in the years ahead. There's so many examples of this where we are simultaneously educating and supporting the industry while at the same time doing battle with the utilities at these different public policy forums. And I just can't stress enough how the risk and the threats are still there. The utilities aren't going to give up with NEM 3. We're not going to die as a result of NEM 3. That is what they were going for. We got to keep up our strong defenses. So thanks to Powur, thanks to Enphase, GoodLeap, and others for being part of CALSA and giving us the resources we need to fight for all of you. And just please help spread the word and get more resources in. Everything we do requires money and resources, and we don't make profits off of every solar system. We need our members to give us the support that we need to win for you guys. And the threat will be there as much as the opportunities are there as well. We got to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Anything our watchers can do to help fight, Bernadette, or be a member of CALSA, or anything?
Yes,
they can look towards?
Be a member of CALSA. There will be public hearings coming up in the next couple of months, and we will be helping orchestrate engagement on how to fight back on those high extreme fixed charges and keep them, just California from going off the deep end on this. It's just another tax.
CALSA has an individual membership, right?
No, we only have.
How can everybody who's watching, if you're an individual consultant, how do you become a member of CALSA?
If you are your own business, you should become a member of CALSA. We have very small, low fees for people that are small businesses. If you are work for a member company, you should sign up and get on our email list so that you can be active in our action alerts. And you can just get information from us, info@calsa.org. There's a real person behind that email address, and feel free to reach out. We're also doing chapter events all over the state right now. We're in Northern California, the Bay Area tonight, Sacramento. I'll be there tomorrow night. Check us out. Come stop by. We're opening the doors to non-members on these events only, just to give you all a sense of who we are. So help spread the word. We're at 750 business members, makes us one of the largest trade groups in the country, but we should be at least 1,000. And if we had that and everybody paid their fair share and supported us, we would have the resources that we need to beat the utilities back at their game and move us into this future, this vision that Raghu so beautifully laid out for us. Thank you. That's my pitch.
Yeah. Rightly so.
I can't help it.
More questions. Do we have more questions?
I actually have another one for Julia or Bernadette. We've heard that NEM 3 billing with the big three utilities won't start until January, February, perhaps. So when a NEM 3 system is being installed today, what can our reps expect to see on this bill, and when will it kick in, perhaps?
This is actually a really big problem for us because a lot of consumers are going to be very confused. They're going to see a NEM 2 billing scenario before NEM 3 hits them, and then they're going to blame us because they're not going to necessarily understand what happened. So this gets at make sure that as you're selling NEM 3 systems right now, that the consumer really understands, go that extra mile to make sure that they really understand that this is sort of a bonus. These couple of months that they're going to get under NEM 2, it's an early signing bonus, but make sure they understand what they're going to ultimately get, so that this doesn't come back to haunt us. I mentioned earlier, consumer protection it's a really big Achilles heel for us, and it just takes one or two consumers to get on the nightly news and really hurt our industry, even if 99.9% of our customers are super happy with us. So we got to make sure we go the extra mile in making sure consumers understand what it is they're getting, and it's part of our frustration at CALSA that this decision was rushed, so much so that we don't even have the tariff done yet. And here we are selling the product. It's a consumer protection nightmare that was created entirely by the utilities and the PUC that we're going to have to manage. And the onus will be on us to manage it, unfortunately. We can't, we're not going to be able to say they did it to us. So I think just clear communication is key, and just taking the time to not rush that sale so people know what they're doing.
Wow.
And can I add on a related note with interconnection? Not necessarily in our control is the backlog. So yes, there was a rush under NEM 2, but the utilities didn't on their end have time to staff up appropriately to process those NEM 2 applications. And I know folks on this call are probably seeing some of those 2, 3, 4 month delays. I think you can look up on SCE and some of the utility websites where they're at in the queue, and they're still back in April processing the applications that came in at that time. So I think this will unfortunately reflect back badly on our industry if even though it's not necessarily something we control, if customers feel like they went solar, they made that purchase, but aren't seeing the benefits for a long time. So we have to set the expectations up front that there are these utility delays. I know they're trying to make some changes to make that more expedited. We're trying to work on the policy front to get a spotlight put on this as well, so the utilities are properly resourced, so that our industry is not doing all the legwork and then getting stuck with these long delay timelines that also create business challenges and ultimately potentially consumer protection issues. So at least doing our part of making customers aware of the timelines that utilities have, directing them to the utility websites, providing resources so there's that clear communication and the customer doesn't turn back to the solar company and think that they are the cause of the delay.
And hopefully with the adoption of expedited permitting processes, that legislation that passed, Solar App this year, moving into next year, that'll help speed up some of the timelines that we're seeing in many of those delays.
Yeah, on the permitting side, absolutely. And then on the interconnection side, we've got a bill right now that we're pushing through the state legislature to actually slap fees and fines on the utilities if they drag their feet.
I like that.
Yeah, because as I think Tony mentioned, they have no excuse for being slow on interconnection. They have no excuse.
Yeah.
So we've got to actually now force the Public Utilities Commission to put a fine on them so that they have a financial incentive to interconnect people in a timely manner.
And the one small point, but important one, is about true-up. Unlike under NEM 2, you true it up pretty much when you're interconnected. We highly, highly recommend that you you opt for a true-up in June. That way, there is no ambiguity about when you build your credits up, that you can use up the credits up in August and September. You can use up those credits through the remainder of the year. It's unclear if I mean, October would be the worst true up because you build up all this credit in September, August and September, and then the utility says, oh, we won't roll the credits over to the next year. So the good news here is we understand how the utilities operate. So we can take some preemptive measures like, asking for changing your true up date.
Well, everyone, we have come to that time where we all get to go back to work, although this has certainly been fun. I do just want to say again, thank you to every single one of you, our panelists who showed up today, generously shared your time and your energy and your knowledge and your leadership with us. I know where it comes from. I know it comes from your hearts, and that all of us really care about the future that we're creating and where we go as an industry from here. And I hope that came off to each and every one of you. And I want to thank all of you, everyone who's out there who showed up to the Renewable Rebellion Roundtable. You are the ones, truly, who are making the difference. Every single house that we install solar plus storage on, that we get off the grid, that we transition to this new energy future, you are the one who goes out there and makes that happen, and who brings that customer to the table, and who creates that demand, and who makes this shift possible. So I thank you so much for the leadership that you have in our industry and collectively, because without you all, we got nothing, and this world is not going solar, and it's not going to be storing energy, and it's not going to be building a new energy grid that we all desperately need. So thank you so much to everyone for the role you play in this amazing industry. I don't know about all of you, but I'm inspired. I'm excited about where we go from here. I'm motivated. I'm eager to go out there and solve whatever challenge is in front of us. And most importantly, share the amazing value that NEM 3 has for consumers today, and continue to get more people on our side so we can fight back these, truly selfish policies that the utilities put forward that don't benefit society and they don't benefit end consumers. They really mostly benefit the utilities and their investors and a much smaller cohort of people. So let's go fight back. Let's go create the future. I'm proud to be part of this community, this movement with all of you, and have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Woohoo! See you at Powur Convention.